Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Just like the wide-winged dove sings a song, sounds like she's singing.
Hey, welcome to a very quick and very special edition of the Two Solitudes podcast. Mostly sound from today's U17 press conference with Sean Fleming, the head coach there. I was part of that call along with Neil Davidson of the Canadian Press. There was just the two of us on the call today, so a lot of interest in the U17s. They're taking place in Honduras, the infamous stadium that we're not going to talk about beyond saying it's infamous, and you can figure it out from there.
Not in San Pedro Sula.
No, not at all. Let's hope there's no. We 8-1 to go there. 8-1. Yeah, never mind.
I hate to be the one to always bring it up.
Yeah. All right. So I asked a few questions there. Neil asked a few questions there. It's good. 10, 15 minutes of a press conference should interest you folks, you geeks out there like us that like this stuff. It's a tough qualifying schedule for Canada. The format's the same as the U20 format. They went out of their way in the release to talk about how tough it was going to be. It's almost like they're diminishing their expectations off the top.
They're letting the groundwork for people to be ready for a bad qualification almost.
All right, guys. Okay, here's the thing. It's going to be tough. All right. Well, we'll still be there cheering for them like the suckers we are. No, these are kids, and I like watching the U17s. And the U17s have qualified for back-to-back World Cups. That's the second time in history that Canada has qualified for back-to-back U17 World Cups. They've never gone 3 in a row, so they're looking for a little bit of history. The one, Kevin, we'll have a brief talk about this, and then we'll just get to the sound and call it a day. The one thing that jumped out at me and at Neil, because Neil ended up asking the question in the press conference. I had it all ready to go. I was ready to jump in with it, I swear to God, was that although there are 9 TFC Academy players on the roster and there are 6 Vancouver Whitecap players on the roster, so 15, there's only 20 players on the roster total, there are none from the Impact. There's only one player that has a Francophone name at all on the entire roster. I asked whether he was confident, whether Mr. Fleming was confident in the talent identification pathways out there, that he was getting the best players. He freely admitted in his answer that he would have liked to have a little bit more scouting time. Neil Davidson then later asked him specifically about the lack of Impact players on there, and this is an Impact team that's, if you look at the U.S. Development Academy League, is right at the very top of it. Yeah. So it's a successful team.
They made it to the final and semifinals over the last 2 years.
So with not a single player from that team, you have to sometimes shake your head a little bit and wonder about that. We asked him, and he, again, sort of in his answer said that he would have liked to have some more scouting time, and that he only, I believe, off the top of my head, that he said he only saw them play once. It might have been once, it might have been twice. It wasn't an awful lot. So interesting sort of questions maybe coming out from that.
I was just wondering when we talked about this off air, I was wondering, is the lack of Impact representative an indication of something going on behind the scene, or maybe it's just a lack of scouting? It's always, it could be seen as a coincidence that there's none on the Impact. It could be seen almost like a directive by the CSA to overlook the Impact players, which I doubt is the case. It's probably the easiest answer is probably just a lack of scouting and a lack of knowledge of those players in that academy.
Yeah, and he said in his answer, you'll hear it, that, when you ask someone about a player in Vancouver, because he's based out of Vancouver, when you ask a player in Vancouver, or someone in Vancouver about a player in Montreal, they don't know about that player, so they can't offer an opinion. Their biases inherently come in. I mean, I'm sure there will be some people in Quebec that will look at this as the CSA overlooking the Quebec players on purpose, but I think that's likely a little bit too tinfoil hat-like of an answer. I suspect that the answer lies exactly in what Fleming alluded to and what we're talking about here, just a lack of scouting resources and a lack of an effective talent identification system. And that's, I think, when we look at the failings that we've had in the last little while, and there's a lot of failings to look at, so sometimes it can become overwhelming. I think that this is one that we really have to look at. And the thing that jumped out at me when I looked at this roster right off the top, and this is U17 roster, so I'm not going to sit here, as much as I I watch a lot of that level of soccer. I watch a lot of U20 soccer. I would put my amount of knowledge of the U20 player pool up against anyone in this country because of the amount that I watch. But at the same time, you're not going to know a ton about these players because they're just too young, and there's only so many hours in the day to watch these guys, right?
And not just that, the turn level, the amount of players go in and out of that program at that level is high compared to the senior level. So that as well, to keep in touch with the different names in that program is hard too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kevin, with that note, I know that this is sort of a special one, and it's a day off for both of us in a lot of ways. So Kevin was walking out the door, and I pulled him back in with my long arm from Toronto. I grabbed him and ripped him back into the house and back on the computer. Anyway, we digress. So we'll take a break now, just put a little bumper in here, and we'll come back and put the raw sound from the press conference, and then when that's done, you'll see us next week. We're not going to talk anymore. So with that note, Kevin, I'll let you say goodbye, and then we'll run the sound.
Enjoy the Sean Fleming press conference with Neil and Dwayne, and until next time, have a great soccer.
Then I first lay. I'm all alone on the edge of 17. Just like the white ring does, sings the songs and I just sing it. Ooh, baby.
All right, guys, I've got Sean Fleming on the line, so we'll get this underway. Sean, I guess first of all, to get things started, going to Honduras in a stadium which is infamous in the wrong reasons for Canada. How excited are you to hopefully try to put a good spin on that place?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's obviously not a great moment in football on the men's side. And I remember walking into it in the draw and imagining what it'd be like that day with the environment like how it was. But yeah, it's an opportunity for us to hopefully put in some good performances, and hopefully the results will follow. But I'm sure we won't have the same crowd and such there. But still, it looked like a beautiful stadium, and looks like I think it'd be a great place to play.
Great, thank you. Neil, you're up.
Hey, Sean, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
My
sort of
pleasure.
a two-part question. One, are you happy with the build-up you've had for this tournament? And two, I know you're no stranger to this event, having qualified the team twice, but I'm wondering if there was anything from the U20 experience in Jamaica that shed some light for you, if anything from that post-mortem has helped you.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the build-up, Neil, it's I guess I'm always the one I wish we'd have a bit more. We unfortunately, with these camps that we have for this, a couple times only had one training session to get right into the games. And once you start getting into the games, there's a lot of it's onto recovery, and of course you do as much video and such you can do. But it is what it is. I'm never one to ever hold excuses, and you just get on with it and do the best you can in the circumstances you have. In terms of the under 20 experience, I mean, as you know, the whole qualifying process has changed, and the 5 games and possibly 6 that you'll play is very demanding. And I think we're going to be near 90, 100-degree weather and humidity in Honduras, so it's going to be a matter of really hopefully the players come in as fit, and that's something I really don't know totally. As some of the players won't have played games for a few weeks coming in, so match fitness will be an issue. So it will be an issue to have where the squad, going deep into the squad, will be very important.
Thanks. I'll let my colleague answer.
Thanks, Neil.
Yeah, I'm just a quick look at the roster here. 17 of the 22 from my count are coming from either the Toronto FC Academy or the Whitecaps residency. I'm just wondering if you're confident that the talent identification sort of system is strong enough that we're not overlooking kids that aren't involved in the MLS academies.
It's 17 out of 20, I think you meant to say, because only 20 was named. But basically, I think that it's young players, and again, doing this now for a while, they could change significantly in 5-6 months, and just by some who have not been MLS academies, for example, and then get into that regular daily environment, training with good players, with good professional coaching, so it can change things dramatically. I think that, I would have probably maybe appreciated a bit more scouting time with this particular cycle. But having said that, I feel honestly that when I've made the decision now about the 20 players that we feel like, we have, the ones who are available, not injured and such, that the ones that we feel that that we do have the best players at this time. And I think there's a key comment is about at this time. And I had to make some difficult calls last week to some kids who are not going to be part of this. I tried to emphasize to them that this is just at this time. There's plenty of players who, maybe not in a good moment now, but could be down the road, could end up being great players for our senior men's team. And that's what I'm trying to do, is pick the players who I think will do that. But with young players, we lack consistency sometimes that they can show in their performances and such, that they're not picked now, but definitely could be picked down the road.
All right, thanks, Sean. I'll jump in with a question here. You've said, Sean, that you're in the more difficult group. How much have you been able to study the opposition, and what do you think of them?
Well, I've seen just a little bit of Haiti, and that's the first and foremost. That's our main focus right now. I'll have another staff member be worried about looking in the future to the future opponents. But Haiti, even at the draw, people were raving before we knew they were in our group, and before I knew we'd be playing them. Talking with all the other teams over there and my coaching colleagues, people were raving about Haiti. They've turned their program around. They're training 5-6 times a week. They have an international coach in. I've seen a little bit of them. They are very dynamic. They are very athletic. They're very good football minds. It will be a great test. We played Costa Rica twice. They beat us both times. One time 1-0 Mexico, another time 5-2 in Panama. It wasn't one of our better outings, to be honest, but a good quality side. Again, a typical Central American, as we have what I think is the top 2 Central American teams in our group. And then Panama, we played them once and we lost them 1-0. And so, they'll be a great challenge in Mexico, of course. 2 cycles ago, win the World Cup at this age, and last cycle made it to the final. So we know the under-17 program is very strong, and so they'll be strong. And then we have St. Lucia, who again will not be someone just look past. But I think in all our preparations, that was why it was very important for me, anyway, from a team perspective, that we won our last game, because we'd only won one game in all our preparation games. That was against France in France. And the other ones, we've lost a lot of games just for silly reasons. But what's very promising to me is we weren't totally outplayed in these games. It was more just little fine moments in a game where we were getting caught a little bit and then us not being more clinical in our chances. But to finish off in El Salvador with a 3-0 win, and then I don't care if it's friendly or anything, but the win down in Central America is very difficult. So hopefully that's a great boost of confidence for the kids, because they deserved it.
Great, thank you. Neil, got anything else?
Yes, Sean, obviously you have a good handle on this roster, much better than we do. Were there any players that you were unable to get through injury or other reasons that that would have been in this squad? And who is your captain?
Matthew Baldissimo from the Whitecaps is the captain.
Okay.
And there are a couple players of injuries and just some other personal reasons. But again, I think the ones that we've had, and again, as you go through the process of the cycle, you try and have some depth. So you're thinking of these times when maybe 1 or 2 players aren't going to be available. So we feel like we've had some good replacements. And again, the feeling in the squad after leaving El Salvador in January was very good, and we hope just to build upon that in the upcoming 4-day camp in Florida, and then we'll move into Honduras.
And not to put you on the spot, you've got 9 people from the TFC Academy, 6, I believe, from the Whitecaps residency, but nobody from Montreal. You would have thought that mathematically, if nothing else, the numbers would have been spread a little differently. Was there just the impact players just didn't make it in those positions, or how would you? Is that not a bit surprising?
I don't look at it surprising at all, because I try, honestly, Neil, just to pick what, in my opinion, would be the best 20 players, and wherever they're from. And like how we have 3 players who are not even in any of the professional academies, so some may think that's surprising as well. Mm-hmm. And But I honestly, I saw the impact one time in last May, and this is where I go back to an earlier question that could I have seen them a bit more? I would have probably loved to have seen them a bit more, to be honest. But having said that, I am in contact with the club quite a bit, and we talk a lot about the players. Then in December, I did see the impact. Happened to play the Whitecaps Academy straight up in the U.S. Academy Showcase at that league. And it was great then because then I could again chat with the coaching staff of the impact and with the Whitecaps. Quite honest, as the challenge is, Neil, is that if I'm in Vancouver and I ask a player, well, what about a so-and-so player in Montreal? Well, they don't know that player all that well, and it's the same thing vice versa. So that's where more and more that I can get around, and then I can be the one who's comparing it. I think it helps, and that's why, is there, sometimes there's more players from certain areas. Like in this time, I don't believe I have any players from Alberta, yet, last cycles I've had 2 or 3 players from Alberta. So it's just how the cycle goes, I believe. I don't think there's any surprise or any planned thing in terms of where the players will come from.
And if I just may follow up, talking to the U20 crew, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think their feeling was after that tournament that the sort of grinding schedule, the heat, the conditions, all were perhaps a little bit much for this young team. Your team is even younger, and you'll be facing the same kind of conditions. Does that concern you that you're taking these, it's sort of deep water that perhaps Central American teams are more used to than us, though you just did have the team down there?
Yeah, I mean, it's the different qualifying process is a challenge. I knew that as soon as I heard that they were changing and what they're doing, and so I knew it was going to be a challenge right away. But I honestly take the approach, and I always will take the approach, that there's no excuses. They have to, all the other teams have to go do what we have to do. We have to just go and do the best to our abilities, and then make sure we're doing everything we can possible in our preparation and our recovery for the players. Will it be a challenge? Absolutely. Will the other teams probably be more used to it than us? Absolutely. But, at the end of the day, I will never accept a player or a staff member saying to me, well, it's because of this, that's why we lost. No, we went in, we've had what we had, we have the cards dealt to us, and now we have to go. And we have justice in this. It's honestly, I say it so clearly to everyone. We have no excuses. We have to just go on and get on with it. So.
Okay, thank you. Good luck down there.
Thanks very much, Neil. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Neil. Dwayne?
Yeah, you got a couple kids on the roster here listed as unattached. I know that's been an issue at the senior level. Is that can you just sort of expand on that? What their situation is, if they're just in between clubs, or what the situation with the 2 unattached players are?
Yeah, there's just 3 unattached players, and a couple are just in between clubs, to be quite honest. And I think they're just going to see how things work out. I think if they can have some great performances in the tournament, well, I think things could turn around with them. And another one's just in the process of trying to get hooked onto a club. I think that's part of my role, to be quite honest, too, Dwayne, is that, at the beginning, and then this has been with the cycles, has been quite consistent. There's been a high percentage of kids sometimes that are not with MLS academies or Edmonton or Ottawa. And but as we go through, and I remember when we were in France, there was quite a significant number of players that were not with the professional clubs, and part of my role is to encourage them to and educate them and the parents and their clubs that they grew up in to say, hey, is there a better environment for you? And then, and I think that once you go through and you see the daily environment, you see what the MLS academies are doing a great job, and Edmonton and Ottawa are doing a great job as well in their academies, that that we find to see what the best fit is for the player. And I think that's a big role for me to do. And so I think at the beginning of every cycle, that's always been the start. And now, sometimes we have everybody is with a club by that point. But I look at the 3, and yeah, definitely, I think there's all 3 are very close being with clubs too.
It's just a quick follow-up. As someone who's been involved in the system for a while, just from your general perspective, with the advent of the academies that have come forth and sort of had prominence in the last few years, are we better off with that situation now than we were a few years ago? How much better off are we, if you believe that?
Well, I do believe we're better off. I mean, I think that the reality is that having kids train 4 or 5 times a week, and then with the best players it's a natural thing to say. It's an ideal environment. I still think that I just look at it from a national team perspective that, when we go into some games and we lack our game savvy, our game experience. And that's something that we still need to try and get better at. I think it is getting better, but I think it's something that we really need to kind of educate our players much better on, and how to manage a game better, to deal with a little savviness that their opponents have and such, and how to deal with the situation, the scenarios down in CONCACAF, because as we know, it's a different world down there a little bit, and we have to be able to handle it. We have to be disciplined and committed. And I think that's helped by the kids being in the good academy programs, that they have that discipline, because of course it's expected by all of them, all the academies on the players. So yeah, is it better? Yes, and I think it's good. But I think everybody has to realize too, Dwayne, that everywhere in CONCACAF is getting better. In Guatemala, I saw their national training center there, and it's a great facility they built down there. And same in El Salvador, we train at their national training center, and it's a great facility. So while we're getting better in these environments, as academies are better, I think we have to realize that everyone's getting better as well, and we need to really keep pushing the envelope to try and get into the best possible environments for our kids.
Okay, cheers. Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Great. So unless there are any other questions, I guess we'll wrap it up there. Anything else?
Gavin, can I just forgive me? Can I just ask Sean a couple of quick questions? Can you refresh my memory? What was the qualifying format before? They were split into smaller groups. Is that correct, or how was it?
Yeah, it was 4 groups of 3. And then what you had is you had 2 groups, kind of on one side of the draw, Neil, and 2 groups on the other side of the draw. And then first and second would play off against each other. And then whoever won that third game, if you understand what I mean, you played 2 round robin. And then that third game was the key game, because that was the game that put you through to the World Cup. And then if you won that third game, then you get to play the semifinal and final, which was great, a great development game. So now, I mean, as this is set up, every game is very important. But you can see later on in the tournament that I think that that's where your question earlier about the physical challenge of that will be definitely a factor in what's going to happen.
And is there? Do you expect? I mean, we were down in Honduras for the World Cup qualifying game, and it was a pretty intimidating place. As you said, it'll be the audience will probably be smaller, but just getting around in that city is quite something. I have no doubt CONCACAF and the host organizers will take care of you, but is it going to be, are the players basically going to be stuck in their hotels, other than practice and games?
I think so. I mean, I know when I was there that for the draw, that everywhere we went, we had quite a bit of security around us. More so than I've ever seen in any other place that I've been around. And one thing I've always tried to do, Neil, but unfortunately this time, for whatever reason, we weren't able to do, is I'd like to go in with the team before, do a project there, because just have the kids experience that, experience what it's going to be like getting around the city, as you do know, how difficult it is, and to experience, playing maybe Honduras there, experience then, sometimes when you do play there, the crowd, I think would have been a good crowd to experience as well. And I think that's helped in the past 2 cycles to have that experience, but we just couldn't make it work this time. And I think, too, that I think it will be fairly well attended, because I know the draw, the number of media there was incredible for me. I've never seen that before at a CONCACAF draw. So I think all those factors in, and as kids, things that our kids aren't used to. Now something being in a spotlight, now they're going to go into a media conference with quite a few people there and such. So it's, I think, part of my role that I try to facilitate that for our players, to be quite honest. But I also, that they have to face it sometime too. So it's a great footballing country. They love their football, as you know, and it's a great experience. And I love going to those type of countries like that. And but it's something that we all have to deal with, so that it doesn't affect the performance in a negative way.
Well, I guess it's invaluable experience for down the line for these kids.
Absolutely. That to me is like Europe is obviously great to go because of football. We all know what football is, Neil. But to go to CONCACAF as many times as possible is so important. I think that's what we're trying to do with all our youth programs. So.
Okay. Well, thanks for your patience answering all the questions.
No problem at all, Neil. Anytime.
Great. So I believe that's everything. Dwayne, anything else?
Yeah, I'm good. Cheers.
Great. So, we're down in Honduras, I believe, the 26th. And, you all know how to get in touch with me. So thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. Bye-bye.